the new XDR display, the iPad M4 Mini, and the iPhone 17e. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by MacVoices Magazine, our free magazine on Flipboard and on the web. Want to cut through all the noise and find out what you can do with your Apple gear? MacVoices Magazine focuses on just that, aggregating the best how-to articles and information. Get it by searching for MacVoices in the Flipboard app or visiting macvoices.com/magazine. Let's move on to, I guess, the yesterday's announcements, I think, or was this today's? Now I'm losing track.
This was today's, the Macs.
Yeah, the Macs were, but the new Studio XDR.
Oh, that was today too.
That was today. That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 120 hertz refresh, mini LED, and more. And I'll throw things in the chat room here. We talked about this on a couple of the other shows. We also talked about it here. That is this a good idea for Apple to get in and stay in the monitor game? Is it something that people want or are going to use? Especially when the cost of some really decent monitors is fractions of this. Anybody excited over this? Anybody into this one?
I was doing some comparisons for work, and boy, that XDR, as much as it's a nice monitor, the exorbitant cost of it is just, it has to have some good justification of what type of its uses. If it's just going to be some standard person who's doing this office work and not anything designing or anything like that, it's just not. I don't think it's worth that. The extreme difference in price. You're going from up to $1,800 to $3,300. That's quite a jump. This 27-inch, the standard smart display looks like a pretty decent value, considering it still is close to $2,000, depending on what you get on it, like the nano screen and all that. But it really is. I think the 27-inch, the standard Studio display, I think is going to be. It will sell a lot faster, a lot better than this XDR one.
Okay. Anybody in the market? Web?
I hope my audio is coming through. The XDR display, I like David said, I thought was nice. I just didn't think at the time it was $6,000 worth of nice. On the original 32-inch display. Yeah, I would have loved it, but I'm not going to spend that kind of money on it. And when I got this setup that I have here at home, I end up going with that other Texas computer company for their displays, and I've been very, very satisfied with them. Now at my office, I do have 2 Studio displays, and I like those as well. But I wonder how many of the XDRs they actually sold.
Wasn't a lot, because that was so expensive. Even and then they charge extra for if you want a
stand,
the VESA and a stand, and most companies are going to want the VESA mount because you got arms that are on your desk. So that's what you would go with. With the stands. You look at Dell. You can buy one that includes a stand or it doesn't include the stand. They charge the same price for it. You're just saving the environment by not tossing the stand out when you don't need it. But Apple, on the other hand, it's $199 for a stand. It's interesting that they charge that, but I think, like I said, anybody who's using it with a arm, I think it's going to go VESA.
Yeah, and I've seen the XDR displays, pardon me, in Apple stores, and they're gorgeous.
Oh, they are.
And they're gorgeous. But at the same time, I've seen displays in other brands of displays in other stores, and they're gorgeous too. And maybe it's just my eyesight, but I guess I can tell that the difference between an iMac 5K display and a 4K display from Dell, but not enough to warrant the extra money. So, Jeff.
So listening to the discussion so far validates for me why Apple is not in the pro display market anymore.
Yeah.
Because the new Studio XDR, whatever they're calling it, that is not a pro display. The Pro Display XDR, that was a professional reference monitor, and the price point for it was so freaking cheap. Now, granted, we're talking $5,000, $6,000, which is a lot of money for a display.
Right.
But for the market that display was intended for, that is a steal. But the problem is that everyone perceives the display in the way we've been discussing it this evening, where it's like, that's a really pretty display, but that's not $5,000 or $6,000 pretty.
Right.
And so for most people, what that display was lost on them. And I agree with you, Apple probably didn't sell that many. Otherwise, we would have an upgraded version of that. But instead, we get these two models of Studio Display, and yeah, so Apple's out of the pro display market. And on one hand, that's disappointing, because it was really nice to see Apple providing a quality studio reference display at a ridiculously affordable price for what it was. But if no one's going to buy it, and the market is not going to perceive it the way the way Apple should have been able to promote it, well, then the product's got to go.
Well, think of it this way: the Mac Pro. You're not hearing anything about the Mac Pro. The Mac Pro may, as far as we know, be gone too. I mean, it's just they considered it a Pro model. It was still Intel Xeon processor, so they haven't said anything about that. We got this the Mac Studio that I know Marty owns and uses, and that's a Pro 10 kind of Pro machine. But and the same thing goes with this XDR, the Pro line machine monitor there. I'm curious to know, being in the design field, which brands are out there that we don't even know about. That's the thing. I'm in corporate and consumer, where these extreme monitors that they use that are even more money than this XDR is out there. I'd like to see the difference of it, but you don't see them anywhere.
No, and you're not going to walk into a showroom somewhere and check those displays out. So it's not fair to the average consumer, because they have no point of reference. But for the people in the space that actually need that display, $6,000 versus $15,000.
Right.
Okay, I mean, that's significant. But you brought up the Mac Pro, and you tossed out the idea, hey, maybe that's a dead product. I think the Mac Pro is a dead product. Yes, they did eventually give us an M series Mac Pro, but I think that the Mac Studio is filling the space of the Mac Pro, even though it's not actually a pro computer in the sense that the Mac Pro was. I think Apple is done in that space too.
Well, I think I also thinking. I mean, getting hard. Sorry, we got off a little bit of topic here, but comparing the Mac Pro to what others out there with the towers and towers were a great thing with desktops for so many years. Now they're going to the small form factor. Again, looking in corporate world, you see them everywhere. You're going into doctors' offices and places that use terminals all the time. They're small. They're extreme small form factor, even smaller than the Mac Studio.
Yeah, just barely bigger than an Apple TV.
Pretty much, yeah. So I think that Mac Pro is dead just because of its form factor is one of the reasons, and it just wasn't selling. They again go back into this the XDR display that they had before. That means that it wasn't selling because Apple doesn't do a very good job working into the Pro area. When it comes to hardware.
I agree.
Yeah.
Since we've gone down this rabbit hole, I'll just throw what Barry said in the chat room, that he thinks that Apple's Studio line of devices is their new Pro line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I'll agree.
Yeah. And so, and the only thing I would say is, in order to step up then the M5 Pro and the M5 Max need to make it into that studio line. On the other hand, there's an argument to be made that the 14 and especially the 16-inch laptops are also the new Pro line, because they're certainly priced accordingly. But more importantly, that seems to be what professionals are using now. They're mobile, and they want to take all that power with them and all that storage with them. And if they need extra, well, that's what Thunderbolt's for.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting way that things have developed.
It is.
And, all of us most of us here are of a vintage that you remember, okay, it was very clearly there. You knew where the top of the line was, and you knew where you fell in the pecking order. And now if you need that power, you can get it reasonably affordably. And if you can do with just a little less power, you can really save some money and still have access to things that we only dreamed of just a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Jeff, one other thing I want to make the point. I know around here, the stores that used to sell TVs, the appliance stores, have stopped selling them. They can't make any money on them. And so I don't, because TVs are basically a throwaway now, and you can get a ridiculously decent, unless you've got a super critical eye, you can get a good 55, 65 inch for $500 to $750.
I just bought one that's going to get installed this Friday. It's a Samsung. It's an OLED screen, $398.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes. When you can walk into Costco and for $500 or less, walk out with a big television with a good display in it. Why would any of these electronic stores, big box retailers, want to carry something like that anymore? There's no margin for them.
right.
Yeah, I expect they'll stick around in the Targets and Walmarts.
yeah. Well, Walmart owns Vizio, so I mean, they got their own brand
right.
now.
Yeah. And Best Buy owns Insignia, I think.
Insignia, right?
Yeah, Insignia.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, so places like that, sure. But the specialty electronics and entertainment stores, no, I'm with you. I don't think there's a market for televisions for them anymore.
No, I mean, we just talked about it last week in my show with Panasonic. Panasonic is not making their TVs anymore. They were the last of the Japanese companies that are having someone else make it for them. There's just no margin at all in the cost of these TVs anymore for it to make it worth their while. But it was, 10, 15 years ago, but not anymore.
Yep. And what was it, a month or so ago? We get the news that Sony,
yeah, too,
is handing off the Bravia line to what? TCL?
TCL, yeah.
TCL, yeah. And Jeff, it's funny you brought up the Insignia, because I have an Insignia as a secondary TV in the bedroom, and I was really hesitant to buy it, but they too have gotten so good that you almost don't need to buy one of the quote unquote name TVs to get a really decent panel. I'm not sure I'd buy it for the living room at 75 inches, but for the bedroom at 30, I think 32 is fine.
32. I don't think they make 32 anymore. 43, not. I think, is the bottom line now.
It may be 43.
If you look around, you can find a 32, but yeah.
You see them, but they're really cheap.
Yeah. And to go back to the M5 discussion too, Barry and Brett have been saying in the chat room, M5 Ultra in the studio by WWDC. So they have predicted, and it's not
possible,
not unrealistic.
We've got the Max now, so if they can go beyond the Max to the Ultra.
Yeah. The other announcement we had yesterday, we had a couple of them. An updated iPad Air with M4 chip, increased RAM, Wi-Fi 7, and a few other spec bumps. And this seemed to be the one that really got kind of beat up in the press. That it was on. I saw several articles like, "Well, this is no upgrade at all." And it's like, I didn't think it was that bad. And, to have a mini move to the M4, I would have been quite shocked to see. Excuse me, an Air. I'd have been quite shocked to see an iPad Air with an M5 in it. So that doesn't make sense. So I thought this was a nice little upgrade.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they don't want to release the M5 for an Air. I mean, that's competing with the iPad Pro.
Yeah.
So you're going to stick with the next model, next chip below, to make it more affordable. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, it's a subtle upgrade. I mean, I think you went from M3 to M4. If you have an M3 iPad Air, I don't see any need to be going and upgrading it. I think it's a pretty sufficient. Like right now, my Pro iPad, that 13-inch, I'm at the M4. I saw no compelling reason to upgrade. So it's nice to see Apple is keeping that going. The upgrades.
Marty?
Yeah, I'm not as active as an iPad user as other people on this panel, but I knew we were going to talk about it tonight, and I hadn't really looked at what the new iPad was about. I went into the store and started pricing it. And by the time I got to the point where it would be usable for me as an iPad Air, by adding things in like cellular, increasing the size, and I was talking about 11-inch, not even the 13-inch. I'm into the $1,500, $1,600 price point. And I'm like, nope, sorry. It's just not my work. It just doesn't fit my workflow. And, what would fit my workflow would be a laptop. Around that same price, which is possible. So I've got a couple of MacBook, or I have a couple of iPad Pros. They will stay with me until they're not useful anymore, and I'm not going to be looking at any other lines because of the cost, primarily.
Brian?
Yeah, so for me, I upgraded my iPad Air about 6 months ago, and real happy with it. I upgraded. I think it was two generations difference. I think I had the M1 and I went to the M3 iPad Air, mostly because of storage. I had the smallest storage capacity on the M1, and I think I went up to I think it's a 256 on the one. I went from a 64 to a 256, and I love it. I mean, there's nothing I can't do on the M3 Air that that seems to be slowing anything down or accessing anything. It's a fantastic device. So when I saw the upgrade announcement with the chip, it's nice. I think if I still had the the M1 Air, it would probably be something maybe to consider. But even the M1 to the M3, I was still happy with the processor and everything at that point too, because mostly for me, at least, I use it mostly for consumption. And so the videos were, streaming at the, just fine. Web browsing was fine, that type of thing. So very happy with it. But it's a good quality line, and I like the specs that it offers. I think the value, all the different keyboards. I've used the Logitech keyboards, and I've used the Magic keyboards that you can, use with your iPads. And for so many people, I think, if you just need to quickly, send an email, connect to something on the web, it's not, it does a lot. It's a pretty powerful thing. So.
Yeah, agreed. Let's see. Okay, so anything else on the M4 iPad Air before we go? Because I don't want to downplay it too much. If you're in the market for it, take a look at it.
Yeah,
I'm still not sure I agree with all the articles that seem to be denigrating it, but that's
always. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
It's always the go-to iPad. I suggest to many people that ask me, which is the best iPad to get. You're fine with the iPad Air. Most it's going to be just a regular consumer, doesn't need any heavy power. it's a great value. I mean, you can start it with $599, $699, and that's pretty reasonable. When the Pro, you start with $7, $899. So it's a good model, and not be going down to the lowest end model. And even though we know the lowest end model did upgrade their chip, I still think the Air is the better value.
Next thing we had, I think this was the last of yesterday's announcements, was the iPhone 17e with MagSafe. This is another one of those that's been talked about for a long time. This, in contrast to the iPad Air, though, this seemed to get a lot of positive reviews from folks that this is an iPhone that will give most people everything they need. Which I thought was really, really interesting, that it's the quote unquote bottom of the line, and yet it was so roundly accepted. And it gave me hope for the fact that might not see the alleged Mac Neo get trashed by the tech press. That maybe the tech press is starting to appreciate the fact that there are people with lesser needs than theirs or anybody on this panel.
Oh, bless your heart, Chuck.
Mm-hmm. In what regard, Jeff? But thank you.
Yeah, don't worry. The pundits will soundly thrash the Neo. I have no doubt, and I'm surprised the 17e is getting as positive coverage as it is. I expected the coverage when I saw the specs for this to be along the lines of, well, this is what Apple should have released last year. This should have been the 16e, and this isn't really an upgrade. This is just fixing the problems that they gave us with the 16e. But that said, last year 16e, this year 17e, I agree. For most people, this is a completely capable and reasonable iPhone purchase. I think most people really don't need anything more than this.
Okay. Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest difference between this and the 17, I read an article about the comparisons. Do you go with the iPhone 17 or do you go with the 17e? Well, the 17e almost is incredibly close to what the 17 is. The only difference is it's going to be the camera, of course, and the display. The display, the screen is much better on the 17 versus this 17e. So do you need that? You look at the comparisons between the processor and the battery. Everything else is the same. That's the biggest thing. I kind of agree with that. I have a 16e, and the one big thing they also added was MagSafe. They didn't have it on the 16e, which is huge. But you look at I'm looking at the comparison chart on Apple's website, and the other big bonus was the storage. You went right from 128 is the base, now 256 is the base. And finally, Apple is realizing we get rid of this crappy low end capacity. I mean, granted, storage it has gone up in price, but I think Apple is buys enough of it that they can keep the costs down and offer this to the customer. And that was always the base what I would buy an iPhone. I've been lately buying the 512, but at least now 256 is the base when it comes to that. So I think this iPhone 17e is going to sell like crazy. I think it's comparative. You look back and you're looking at also Google couldn't waste any time going to bring out the Pixel 10a to go after this 17e. They're pricing it at $499. But do you want an Android device? Does it have a lot of this comparison stuff? So I mean, Apple's going to I really think we're going to see some pretty massive sales of the 17e. The 16e was okay. It didn't do. You never really heard big things about it. This one might do really well.
Pardon me, Brian.
Yeah, Dave actually hit on a couple of the points I was going to bring up in particular. That bump up from the storage, I think that's huge. I mean, to go from what was it, 128 to 256, and even the camera, like you were saying, it's not the top of the line, best of the best camera, but Yeah, it's still a decent camera, and with those decent cameras, you're going to use that storage up. Taking pictures and videos. It's really not a bad deal at all. And I'm really excited about the fact that MagSafe is coming to it, because I kind of felt, at least for uh, in the first couple years, MagSafe seemed to slowly kind of get its start, and I was almost afraid Apple was going to give up on it. And now, you're starting to see more and more MagSafe items. They seem to be, and fingers crossed it stays this way, kind of like the Apple Watch with the bands, that, I fear the day that they ever switch the sizing where the previous sizing of bands is not compatible anymore. I didn't know that they updated, the band millimeter a little bit, but at least it still works, backwards compatible. And I really hope that that's the case here with MagSafe, because, it's such an amazing technology in so many different ways. And I think bringing it to a lower price phone like this is fantastic. I think it's a really, really good deal for the consumer.
I saw Jeff nodding enthusiastically with Dave's comments and yours, Brian, about the pricing and the suitability of this for everybody else. Marty?
Yeah, if I didn't have a second phone that was kind of my low-end carry-around, and it's actually not a low-end carry-around, it's the iPhone Air that I absolutely love as a phone, everyday use phone. I would, I would really be interested in the 17E. Dave has already suggested that there are a lot of things that have been added to this phone that kind of raise the presence of the phone in a good way for consumers, and it's pretty cool. I'm not in the market for another phone. Frankly, I'm going to save my money in my gift certificates or gift cards for the Fold when it comes out. At that point, I might turn in my my iPhone Air. I'm also struggling with the fact that I have a Pro Max that is a brick that I don't use. I keep it around for spatial photography, and I don't do enough of it to justify it. So, but the 17E, yeah, that would be in market for me if I was in market for a phone.
So in the chat room, Barry said, pardon me, I think the 17E base config is perfect for most people that don't care about high-end camera hardware. It would be a great iPhone for my wife.
There you go.
And, yeah, I mean, and as a second phone, it might also be ideal because you're still going to have a camera. You're just not going to have as good a camera, but it's still going to be a pretty darn good camera.
Yeah, it's still 48 megapixel, so you're getting really good, high quality pictures.
Yeah,
it just doesn't have the high end like the 17 does. The dual fusion versus just the main fusion.
Right, Marty, you seem to be sort of the master here of the panel of doing the constant evaluation and sales or trade-ins and upgrades, and I'm serious. I really respect that, because I think a lot of us, and I'm notorious for it, I get something and I hold on to it. And I for a while I was trading things in, and then I started finding other uses. And so instead of handing the devices down, I sort of handed them off to different use cases for myself. But you seem to just not be afraid to give up and try something else.
Yeah, well, my kids have left me, and my wife is perfectly happy with her phone, so I have no one to hand it down to or hand it off to. So I'm kind of using it. I'm kind of taking a lease model. This year, I'm leasing the 17 Pro Max. Next year, I don't know what I'll be leasing. Probably the Fold. So yeah, I just have found this is kind of where I spend my luxury money, paying up for new devices as they come out. And it's funny because this morning I was thinking about this as these things came out, and I'm getting maybe more and more like other people on the panel here. It's like I don't see myself upgrading an iPad for a long time. I have a high-end iPad Pro. The amount that I use it, I'm probably not going to do it. And won't do it. So keeping up with the latest and greatest of that on the different lines has kind of dropped off my radar. But yeah, I just see it as I don't drive really wonderful cars. I don't, spend a lot of money on clothes or Vegas. So this is sort of where my entertainment fee goes.
Eric, you had a unique use case for the 17E.
Yeah, I'm thinking it would be a kind of a nice option to add a modem to a laptop. It's got enough storage space. You could put some documentation or whatever on it, notes, that kind of thing. I don't need it as a camera if I'm using it as a modem, and just duct tape it to the back. Well, okay, gently place it in a case section modified to drop it in so it looks good on the back of a laptop, and use it as a modem. And I like that it's the new modem, because it looks like, or at least my hope is more and more companies will adopt the privacy feature that Apple added to their new modem, so that it doesn't disclose your exact location.
So that means but you still have to buy a phone number for it to get the data package.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I already have 2 phone numbers because I use 2 on my current phone.
Oh, okay.
Because I need 2 different phone numbers to get from one town to the next, because cellular service isn't continuous.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I'm moving them apart a little.
Yeah, I like it. I like it as an option. Yeah. Webb, yes, Webb. Webb just threw us something that he has a comment, but I was going to grab you because you've been kind of quiet through these last few announcements. Any observations, even if they aren't for you, and then go take us down your rabbit hole.
Sure. Just a couple of things. I do use my iPad Pro. I use it every single day. It's the device that I take with me to meetings. We've talked about that before here. We don't need to rehash it. And it serves the function that I want. Now, I did upgrade my iPad Pro to was it M4, I think, a couple of years ago. Let's call it 2 years ago. It was brand new, and I went to the first Mac stock the summer before last. And it does exactly what I want. But the main thing that I use is Notes app. And through the magic of iCloud, whenever I put anything in the Notes app, it shows up on my desktop computer in my office. So I really like that a lot. 17E, I don't need it. I can see a lot of people who do. There's a good friend of mine who's the former basketball coach at my alma mater. And he had like an iPhone 4 or just the small, tiny iPhone, and he's not a big, techno wizard like all of us. So this fits perfectly for what he wants. And I think that there 2 billion iPhones in use throughout the world. I think that there's 1 billion of them that this phone fits just perfectly for. And some people want to have the nicer camera, and some people want to have all the latest technology, like me. And so I can see where that fits. The rabbit hole that I wanted to go down is just, and it was something that Eric, you said in the chat earlier, maybe 45 minutes ago, about I'm waiting to see what the config's going to be to use the new Siri. I think they're showing that right now, how they've upgraded all the base configs. Everything is trying to get everyone prepared for the new Siri. That's my theory. And I'm sticking to it. But I think that was the comment that I was going to make on the rabbit hole statement. So I think they're trying to establish the new base configuration at doubling the memory and the internal memory, what we would normally call RAM, if you will. I think that's what they're doing. I've been wrong before. I didn't. I said there wasn't going to be a MacBook Pro this week.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. I admit I was skeptical because of the MacBook Pro, because there were so few rumors that Rowie addressed, that they were all focused on so many of these other things. And I usually am the one that's interested in the top end of the line on the Macs. So I kind of thought, well, maybe dub. And
I bowed down to Eric. He said it was coming. So
Yep. But Webb, this is interesting. This is the first time that the AI demon has raised its head in this conversation in the form of Apple Intelligence or the S Lady or whatever.
Yeah.
So, is this why we're seeing a lot of these upgrades right now? Because I honestly am not sure, but I kind of felt like the Macs were just a bit off cycle to do the upgrades. And yet, if we're going to see a lot of this stuff at Dub, it would make perfect sense to have these in the channels ready to go. So
I would say that if somebody was to go out and buy a new device, a new iPad specifically, and maybe the Mac, but the iPad specifically and the iPhone, if they were to buy one now and then they came out with the updated Siri with iOS 27, I could see Apple take a lot of heat for it. The other thing is with memory chip pricing and some of the pressure that's going on that right now, maybe they're trying to get it a little bit ahead of that. It's not a direct causal relationship, don't get me wrong, but I could see that get the upgraded memory on a device right now. 'Cause it could be harder later. Maybe. Who knows?
visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.